this video, I want to talk about a particular subject. When are you ready to buy a rental property? And at what point in your life does that make sense? What boxes are you going to be checking to make sure that this is going to be a smart decision and not put you in a world of hurt? Let's dive in. Now, I've split this video into two parts. The first is understanding the local market in which you want to invest in. The second is having an understanding of your personal financial situation as it is today, or whenever it is that you want to go buy a rental property. And these are two of the most important macro level pillars that investing in real estate sits on. All right, so let's talk about different things that you should know and think about as you're looking to invest in a local market. And it could be the market that you live in today. That would be the most logical thing because you live there and you probably have an understanding. So that's typically where real estate investors look to invest because they know it, it's their home, they've been there for a while. Or if you're looking to invest out of state or potentially internationally, let's talk about the things that you should look at so that you have a firm understanding of what you're getting yourself into when you go to invest in a new property. And I'll give you a quick example. I've lived in Arizona now for 6 years. And when I first moved here, I didn't have any money to purchase a home, and nor did I want to immediately because I didn't know the area. I'd never lived here. I'd really only taken one vacation here. So what I did personally was live in Tempe and rented for 2 years. And I had an understanding over that 2-year period of where the different cities were, what types of businesses were in the local area, what types of workers, blue collar or white collar or military, whatever was kind of happening in the general Metro Phoenix area. And as I developed that mapping in my head, then I started to develop kind of an indication of where I might want to allocate some money in terms of real estate investment when the time came and when I had enough money for a down payment on a property. I would know more directly where I wanted to put that money because I had an understanding of the things that were happening around me as I was living there. So one of the stories that I often talk about regarding my rental buying experience for the first time is when I started to look at downtown Phoenix, and I really wanted to get a better understanding of what was happening in downtown Phoenix, this up and coming metro area. And I went to an event one night. It's called First Friday. They still host it today. And there were literally 10,000 people walking out in the street. There's live music, there's artwork, there's vendors selling food and t-shirts and different things like that. And I thought to myself, wow, that's really cool. If this specific area downtown can draw that many people, then that must mean that the surrounding areas are really starting to gentrify and really starting to pop. So as soon as a property came up in one of the nearby neighborhoods, I jumped at the chance, and that's where I purchased my duplex. And it has turned out to be an amazing investment despite different headaches that I've talked about in different videos. But I would not have been able to find that deal without doing a lot of research and literally doing boots on the ground work and understanding what was happening in the local market and what was happening up and down different streets. So without that information, I might not have been able to make a smart decision. So one of the best questions that you can ask yourself as you're looking and doing research on real estate and different potential rental properties is, hey, where is gentrification happening? And gentrification presents itself in a lot of different ways in different communities. And oftentimes what you'll see is technically lower income people being pushed out and higher income people coming in. And that's basically what gentrification is. It's just urban development and restaurants opening up and new shops and just kind of money pouring into the area. And again, for good and bad, depending on different groups of people. We saw it happen with Californians coming during COVID across the country, a lot of them here in Arizona, and different neighborhoods really start to take off. So ask yourself, do I know where those things are happening? And beyond that, where are new businesses starting? Is there a new factory or a new office building being built? And that's going to draw in investors and people that need to work and live there, and they're going to be in need of a place to live. So is that going to be a good place to rent because there's going to be an influx of new employees that need to live in the local market? So a lot of things to consider depending on the kind of the economic environment and where people need to live at the end of the day. Another wonderful question to ask is, hey, what type of renter am I gonna get? What type of renter is ideal for me? What is the type of renter that I would settle for? All good questions. And a lot of people, I think, believe in this fallacy that, hey, every renter that I'm gonna have is gonna be exactly like me. They're gonna take care of the property. And that is typically never the case. So However, you can kind of shift the odds in your favor depending on where your rental property is. If you are buying a rental property in the Hamptons, then the odds are you're gonna have a great renter. But if you're buying in a lower income area that is gonna take in Section 8 vouchers, it could be a different situation. And of course, everything is on a spectrum, and there's a million different types of renters in between that are gonna cause you a level of headache or no headache. So you have to understand that, and you wanna understand what type of renter you're gonna get in that exact type of neighborhood and kind of urban center. What type of person lives there generally. So to wrap up on the local market side, let's talk about the type of realtor that you're gonna be using to buy your first rental property. Or maybe they're gonna help you buy multiple rental properties in the future. It's super important to find a good realtor.
When it comes to selling real estate, sometimes things get a little crazy. Hey.
One that has bought and sold rental properties for different clients before, or two, maybe they specialize in commercial or residential rental real estate, because that's gonna allow you to find better deals. And they're not like a traditional realtor who wants to drive up the bidding war or the price just so they can get a fatter commission. This is a realtor that specifically understands your needs as a real estate investor and buyer, and they're gonna help go out and find those particular properties. Maybe they're in distress that need a little bit of TLC, and they're gonna be maybe on the foreclosure side, they're gonna be in an area that is gentrifying, and they can help you identify those things. So very important to get aligned with a realtor who knows what your goal is. And you got to tell them, hey, I'm looking to buy a rental property. I need X, Y, and Z. List out your criteria for them so that they can go to work for you and not show you a bunch of properties that are super high priced that are in, different neighborhoods that aren't going to fit the renter profile that you're looking for, all these different things. So have a sit down meeting with them so that you can detail what you need within your rental property criteria. Now let's talk about the financial side behind buying your first rental property. And I would argue that this half of the video is way more important than the first half of the video, because if the math doesn't make sense, then absolutely nothing will make sense about buying a rental property. And what's interesting is, as I've learned different real estate philosophies, there's a couple schools of thought in buying rental properties and building your net worth and all these things. And if on the one side, if you read David Green's book, The BRRRR Method, it talks about buying properties and enforcing appreciation and then skimming off the appreciation through a refinance and then applying that as a down payment for more properties and over again, and technically building an infinite portfolio of rental properties. And on the other side, you have people like Dave Ramsey who say, do not buy anything unless you are completely out of debt. So what I would do is encourage you to look into both of these strategies and make your own decision. But we can go into some of the financial pieces as well, and my personal opinion on what makes sense in buying a rental property for the first time. So let's start though with something a little bit more obvious on the financial side, which is having steady income, being employed. Have you been employed for a long time? And or did you just get laid off and you're starting a new job? And there's like this period of time that we're in right now, which is filled with a ton of economic uncertainty. The market is very volatile. You've maybe followed the tech layoffs where millions of people have been impacted, and it could potentially get worse as we head into a recession, or who knows what's going to happen. So is it a good time to buy a rental property when interest rates are at an all-time high? All things that you have to consider based on the economic environment that you're currently in. And beyond just having a job, obviously that's step one. You got to have some money coming in, but then what happens to that money? Do you have an understanding of personal finance? Because if you're going to invest hundreds of thousands of dollars in a real estate venture and you don't know how to budget, then don't get into real estate, because it's going to be really bad and you're going to be in a world of hurt and you're going to have to sell or foreclose immediately. So if you're like me, put everything in a spreadsheet and you have your income, net income at the top, and you have your potential rental income, and then you have that contrasted against the mortgages that are going out, and then all of your other expenses. You need to lay that out really clearly in a spreadsheet. And once you start to do that over a couple months and you have a framework for your financial understanding and situation, then you can start to get the wheels turning on buying a rental property. You have to get a budget together, and then you need to plug in what these different numbers look like, potentially different mortgage payments on the new property versus what the cash flow would be looking like. And we can talk more about cash flow in a second. But those are the preliminary things that you need to do to get an understanding of how a rental property is going to work out for you. The next question that you need to be honest with yourself about is, hey, how much debt am I in? Do I have a lot of student loans? Do I have multiple car loans? Do I have consumer loans? Do I have a ton of money on credit cards as well? If the answer is yes to any of those questions, it's probably not the right time to move forward with a real estate purchase until you get that stuff down and hopefully to zero. And I'll be honest with you guys, originally I was part of the David Green camp, the Burr method, and I bought 2 properties really quickly within 18 months, and all of a sudden I had over $500,000 in mortgages. And now I've kind of shifted to more of the Dave Ramsey method, which is, hey, I want to get out of debt, and then I want to be able to buy properties with cash. And you can do that much more easily once you have what Dave calls the snowball effect of having your income come in and keep it all, because you don't have any bills, you don't have mortgages. So you got to take a look at your current debt situation and figure out what's going to make sense for you based on the amount of debt that you have. And like I talked about a second ago, all the expenses on a spreadsheet, what does that add up to? All of your monthly payments. Are you going to be able to have cash flow, or are you going to be in the negative, which would be pointless in buying a real estate property? So I want to go a little bit deeper into why the debt piece is so important, because it all boils down to cash flow in real estate, monthly cash flow, what's in and out. And let's say you live in a house today and you want to rent it out. If your mortgage is $1,500 and you think that based on the local market, you can get $1,600, that's not a good deal, because quickly you think, oh, maybe I'll get $100 extra per month. But what about the trash, water, sewer service? What about when something goes wrong? What about if taxes increase? You're quickly underwater there. So the concept of paying down your debt and getting it close to zero, if you had a $0 mortgage payment, your property that you're renting then becomes an ATM machine, because everything is pure profit other than taxes and, again, other kind of supplemental bills that happen. You don't have a mortgage payment. You are printing money, because every rent check, you are keeping 95+% of it, and that's where you want to be. Another really important topic from the financial side is, what level of down payment are you going to come into this real estate purchase with? And again, it all boils down to cash flow, because if you're going to go buy a rental property with an FHA loan at 3.5% down, that's probably a bad idea, because you're not going to be able to cash flow, because the mortgage payment is going to be significantly higher than what you could rent it for in most cases, given today's housing market. And you want to be able to come in with north of a 20% down payment, because 1, you're going to be able to get a conventional loan, and 2, you're going to be able to waive PMI, which is private mortgage insurance, off the top immediately. And that can range from like $50 to $300 or more. And that immediately eats into your cash flow if you're coming in with a low down payment. So you need to be forward thinking and think about the down payment amount and the size of house in terms of costs that you want to buy, so that you can match that up and come in with 20%, so that you have the best chance to cash flow with your new real estate endeavor. A couple more important items from the financial side. Who's going to be taking care of your new rental property? This investment that just costs you hundreds of thousands of dollars. Do you have a landscaping service? Do you have a property manager who's going to handle the tenant and all of these items that might pop up? Do you have a pest control company? Do you have a pool at that property? Who's going to take care of that? So again, you got to put these pieces in place so that you can protect this new investment. It's not like money sitting in a bank account. It is a physical, tangible property that you need to take care of, and you need to protect your investment. It's super important. So think about these pieces that are going to be in place. Are they available within the local market that you're buying the property in? Or is it some remote farmstead? Then you need to get creative with who's going to take care of the property. So things to think about. And the last item is the emergency fund that you're going to have for the property, because maybe you have an emergency fund personally and for your primary residence, but think about it. You're going 2x now. You're going to own 2 properties, and you need to basically double the emergency fund. And then when you buy more properties, that fund, that nest egg needs to get bigger and bigger Because let's say you buy a property and the HVAC system goes out. Here in Arizona, I just got a quote for my system. It's $19,000. So let's say that breaks after I turn this house into a rental. Am I going to have to finance that? Am I going to be in a bad financial situation? So I need to think about that and create a fund that is large enough to encompass all of these potential issues that could happen at the rental property. So think about having enough cash on hand to weather the storm. Now, to wrap up, the last thing I'll say is go set yourself up for success. And other than watching my videos, don't forget to like and subscribe. Go buy $50 or $100 worth of real estate books. You see the books I have up on my shelf here. Those have really helped me. And again, I mentioned there's different schools of thought when it comes to real estate and real estate investing. Go read some books by Brandon Turner or David Green, and some other books by Dave Ramsey and his group. So you'll start to understand and form a holistic view of how rental property investing works in general. So thanks again. I really appreciate you guys watching this video. Until the next one, I'll see you later.